Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Daily Mail News. Son-in-law of Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard reveals how the rise of David Miscavige, must be the cover story, led to his imprisonment, where he was spit on and beaten by a leader before his dramatic escape. By Laura Collins, Chief Investigative Reporter for DailyMail.com, dated 12 November 2019. Guy White, 63, is the first ever Hubbard family member to break their silence to speak out about his time in Scientology in an exclusive Daily Mail TV interview. He's a family member by marriage. White married Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard's daughter, Suzette, in 1986, the same year Hubbard died of a stroke. I have never wanted to speak out earlier because I've been followed. I've had private investigators on me. It's very intrusive, he says. He tells Daily Mail TV that he was imprisoned for 30 days, spit on by church leader David Miscavige, and audited for his transgressions. White says he escaped after Suzette left with their son, when the rise of David Miscavige saw the Hubbards shunned and erased from Scientology. White reveals that none of Hubbard's family members ever saw his body. Isn't that interesting? And the coroner's report revealed, years later, there were multiple injection sites. Drugs. According to White, Hubbard's will was changed the day before his death and moved a lot of money from the family onto the church. He says he ultimately lost faith in the church, but gained the freedom to live his truth as a gay man. The son-in-law of L. Ron Hubbard has lifted the lid on the secrets surrounding the death of the Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, revealed the power shift that followed as David Miscavige took charge, and told of imprisonment in the bowels of the church's Los Angeles base, Big Blue, and his own dramatic escape in an explosive interview with Daily Mail TV. No mention of the children. Guy White, 63, has become the first ever family member to break the silence and speak out about his time in Scientology. I have never wanted to speak out earlier because I've been followed. I've had private investigators on me. It's very intrusive, said White. I wonder if the LAPD is involved in that as well. It's just a question. You know what the deal with the devil is like? Don't speak out against us and then we won't make your life hell. I didn't want my life to be hell because that would be hell for my children. But they're adult now and I've always felt the story needed to be told. Guy White, 63, is the first ever Hubbard family, by marriage, member to speak their silence to speak out about his time in Scientology in an exclusive Daily Mail TV interview. White married Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard's daughter, Suzette, in 1986, the same year Hubbard died of a stroke. White revealed that none of Hubbard's family members ever saw his body, and the coroner's report revealed years later there were multiple injection sites. Scientology has denied White's claims in a letter to Daily Mail TV, calling the allegations false. That's pretty much all they ever do is deny, isn't it? He is reaching back 40 years to manufacture lies about Scientology, yeah, because everybody's lying, to capitalize on the popularity of the religion, please. And its leader, a church spokesperson, said, 3 decades have elapsed since Guy White finally fled Scientology in a dramatic nighttime escape from their so-called Happy Valley base in the heart of the Saboba Reservation, California. That must have been right next to the children's ranch, right? Months before, it would have been inconceivable to him that he would ever want to leave. He was a member of the church's royal family, married to Hubbard's second daughter, Suzette, father of his then infant grandson, Tyson, and C.R. Golden Boy. Oh, C.R. Golden Boy. But that was when he believed he was part of something real. Now the only thing he was certain of was that he was never going back. Oh, also I want to add in there, why is it that everyone escapes? And the United States government, they don't seem to know anything about it, even though those buildings have Constantine wire over them. Speaking exclusively to Daily Mail TV, not that they told us that 3 times already, he has told how the Hubbard family was humiliated and erased after the founder's death and revealed a violent, Kafka-esque encounter with David Miscavige, the chairman of the board. He has also shared the life-changing series of events that ultimately saw him lose his faith but gain the freedom to live his truth as a gay man. White was just 19 and a student at community college in Portland, Oregon, when he was seduced by the writings of L. Ron Hubbard. So he wasn't born into it. He took a course in philosophy, and Hubbard's The Fundamentals of Thought was on the syllabus. It's on the syllabus. White was unaware that the college was a feeder for Scientology, and his professor a member of church staff. He soon became a member of staff too, signing a short contract before moving to Los Angeles and joining the Sea Org, the paramilitary-style clergy that requires members to sign a billion-year contract. Also, they recruit children as young as 9 and 10 in there. In case nobody knew, I just want to make sure that if the Department of Justice or the FBI or LAPD or anyone is listening, in case you didn't know, children 6, 7, 8, 9 years old are in the Sea Org. It's a fact. White recalled, "You basically commit your life. Over the next 5 years, White rose through the ranks rapidly." That's a flag right there. Zealous in his belief in Scientology's goal to clear the planet of war, insanity, and crime. He ran the organizations outside Los Angeles from 19 to 34 and spent a year in Mexico City. Oh, isn't that great? Trafficking on crack. In charge of Scientology's growth in Latin America before being called back to LA in 1981. He was told he was needed there more because the returns were greater. "I felt that if this is what I needed overall, then of course I would stay," he said. "But my conscience is telling me that I need to make sure that someone is on the job I'm leaving." He left Mexico City fully expecting to return, and having learned that he would not, he filed a series of instructions on how his absence should be managed and his replacement found. He set about his new role in LA. Then one Friday, White received a call. "In management, the statistics, sales figures of books and services." Yeah, remember it's supposed to be a church, right? Come on in Thursdays at 2 o'clock, and you stay up all night long looking at them," he explained. "This Friday night, I'm called over to the management office. Names. I walk in, and the executive, who greets me goes, "You're in trouble." Everybody's always in trouble. I couldn't imagine what that was about. White was escorted to the back of the building to a room approximately 8 feet wide and 12 feet deep. There was a small window with bars but no glass. Suzette took their son Tyson pictured together in 1989 to escape Scientology's Happy Valley without telling White. White pictured was once a CR golden boy, having been devoted to the church and part of Scientology's royal family by marrying Hubbard's daughter Suzette. He said, "It's November 12th, 1982. I'll never forget that day." Names, names, names. "I'm locked in that room, and after several hours, I'm told to write up your transgressions. And I'm like grasping at what's going on. In the small hours of the morning, the door opened. It was David Miscavige, and behind him was a line of officials. Names, names, names. Longer than White could see, because they got to gang up on people. Scientology's denial of Guy White's claims. Guy White's claims are false. He is reaching back 40 years to manufacture lies about Scientology to capitalize on the popularity of the religion and its leader. L. Ron Hubbard always intended for his life's work to benefit Scientology. While he provided generously for his family, Mr. Hubbard bequeathed the bulk of his estate to the church to carry out its religious mission. Unlike some religions that have experienced periods of turmoil, like no money, when their founders pass on, this was not the case for the Church of Scientology, the fake church. The church was gone on to flourish and prosper in accordance with Mr. Hubbard's vision and plans. This is long. Guy White briefly held a middle management position with the church in the early 1980s, but was removed for repeated ecclesiastical violations. He was given several opportunities to redeem himself. You see how you gotta redeem yourself. Just like in Catholicism. "Oh, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." Idol worship. But failed and ultimately departed the church's religious order in 1989. His life became shambles, and he involved himself in matters that distanced him from the Hubbard family and the church. Even though he was no longer a practicing member of the church, Scientologists helped him on more than one occasion to get his life in order. White's current attempt to exploit, through his lies, the Scientology religion, its founder, and its ecclesiastical leader is absurd and shameful. Mr. David Miscavige was L. Ron Hubbard's trusted friend. Under his leadership and guidance, churches of Scientology around the world are growing at an unprecedented rate. That's the propaganda. For the past decade, Mr. Miscavige has directed an international program to establish new churches. Why is this crap in here? Who cares? I'm skipping it. We don't want to hear your propaganda. More propaganda, Daily Mail. Let's skip all the propaganda, and they even tell you to go see the Scientology.org. No, we'll skip it. After all that. Oh my God, that's the funniest thing. So I'm not even reading this crap. So they give five paragraphs of complete garbage crap, propaganda from Scientology. I'm not reading that. Oh, there's more. My glasses go off flying and break. Hold on. Okay, I had to skip all that propaganda. White recalled, "I stand up, as a senior person to me. He, Miscavige, walks up to me, grabs my lanyard, rips it off me, then backhands me. My glasses go off flying and break, and then he spits in my face. That must be a real thing he likes to do. I had no idea what this is for. I don't know why I'm in trouble. He probably was doing too good of a job, to be honest, because that's what narcissists do. And he says, people are being prosecuted for what you've done. Also, too, it's real gaslighty. They don't want you to know what's going on. Two years later, he learned, through a chance conversation, that his crime had been to send a telex following up on his New Mexico memo and questioning why certain things had not yet been done. That's what a supervisor would do. This, he was told, was considered reverse management and an unacceptable challenge to authority. This was just what I said. He was doing too good of a job. See? Can't have that. When you think about these narcissists, they're just so pathetic. And in there, you're trapped with them. Still in shock, White was taken into another room and made to undergo an auditing under the E-meter, a rudimentary lie detector of sorts, in which the subject holds 2 tin cans, and the auditor asking the questions interprets the movement of a needle on a scale. He said, I'm being asked questions about what I've done, and I don't know why I'm in trouble. That finally ends, and around 7 or 8 in the morning, I'm escorted to the Rehabilitation Project Force. The RPF is Scientology's re-education program. It's a prison, where members who are not in good standing are sent as punishment and penance. Oh, they sure want to make it look like a church, don't they? It has been referred to as a prison camp of sorts, yeah. Members report not being allowed to speak to anyone. Let's remind everyone that children go through this as well. Having to run everywhere and eating whatever is left over after the rest of the staff have dined. Like pig slop. White wasn't considered fit for even this. I can't imagine why more people have not died in this place. Maybe that's why a lot of the Scientologists DIE in those RPFs. For him, he explained it would be an upward move to be accepted into the RPF. Wow. He said, I was the lowest of the lowest of the lowest. Isn't that great? A person who walks in off the street was higher than me at that point. I'm escorted to the boiler room of Big Blue and given this little mental hammer, and I'm to chip off the paint off the boilers. They're really into those boilers, aren't they? White remained there with no information and no company other than the guards who watched him for 30 days. And those guards are just as bad. He later learned that nobody had lasted that long without breaking. When he finally was allowed to join the RPF, he was met with their applause. Can you guys see the mind control is so strong? White was on the RPF working on renovations. Oh, just like the kids do as well? In an old hospital building when he heard about the running program, a new addition that saw RPF members running around a pool in Griffith Park to the point of exhaustion. Again, I'm surprised why more people haven't just dropped DEAD than doing it all over again. White smiled. I thought that was the best thing in the world. That's what I need to do. I need to get outside. Suzette Hubbard was one of the senior management assigned to oversee it. White recalled that would be February 1983. Suzette's personality is that she doesn't like to play the Hubbard card. She enjoys people. Oh, maybe she has some kindness. People there might have been on the RPF, but I remember she could be exchanging jokes. That's how you could pass the time while you rested. Suzette is a very friendly person. Had she had an attitude of being above or can't be reached or spoken to, like Miscavige, Rinder, Rathburn, to that would have been different, but that's not how she is. Over the following weeks and months, White and Suzette kept in touch. They were often hundreds of miles apart. White traveled the globe in a series of events promoting an inclusive image of church management. When he was in America, White was often at the International or Gold Base in Hemet. Isn't that where Mark Headley was, I think? About 90 miles east of Los Angeles, but he and Suzette met whenever they could. White says he was imprisoned at the church's Los Angeles headquarters, known as Big Blue, pictured without explanation, and only learned his transgressions years later. I believe he was just doing a really good job, and the upper management didn't like it. That's a shame. That's a nice picture. In January 1989, Suzette took Tyson and vanished in the middle of the night, leaving only an apology note for White to find in the morning. White said, "Nobody had cell phones. You could send messages, but you risk that they're not private. It was a long courtship from early 83 to when we got married in 86. But you know, love finds a way." Miscavige walks up to me, grabs... Okay, we've already read that. White was about to write to Hubbard for his permission when Hubbard died. Hubbard had been in hiding at his ranch in Creston, California, since 1981, and neither his wife Mary Sue nor their children, Diana, Suzette, and Arthur, had seen or heard from him since. His disappearance came amid fears. Oh, I thought he was such a family man. Fake. His disappearance came amid fears of further prosecutions against church management after Mary Sue was indicted on charges of conspiracy for dirty tricks, campaigns run against government agencies, including the IRS. She was sentenced to 5 years, resigned her post in the Guardian's office in 1981, and ultimately served 1 year in 1983. Wonder if she got tea and crumpets when she was in there. White was at the point of writing to Hubbard asking for permission to marry his daughter when everything changed. There was an announcement across the Sea Org of a mandatory event. White and Suzette planned to go together, but at the last minute, Suzette received instructions to go elsewhere. It was January 1986, and Suzette was about to learn her father was dead. White said as she told it to me, the family were called individually into a room, informed that their father had died, handed a piece of paper, told these were his wishes, and signed it. They were taken one by one. We later learned that Hubbard had had a stroke. He was very, very ill for months, but nobody knew anything. Suzette didn't even know he was sick. No family members were ever called to Creston, and we later learned that on the day he dies, this doctor, who had been with him from his first stroke, almost to his last, wasn't there. He was in Las Vegas that day. Meanwhile, at the event, White said it was announced that Hubbard had moved on to do further research, which he didn't need a body for, so he had discarded his body. For me personally, nothing seemed right. It's a hostile takeover. No family member ever saw the body. Years later, I got a copy of the coroner's report. There were multiple injection sites where he was getting Visceral, which is an antipsychotic drug. He was unkempt. He had long fingernails that were dirty. It's called psychosis. See, I guess when L. Ron Hubbard got psychosis, he could go to the doctors. He could get drugs. But his members were not allowed to do that. Rest in peace to Lisa McPherson. And what about the young man in Australia who was not allowed to get help and because of his psychotic state wound up murdering his own mother? And there's more. There's a lot more. Hubbard got special treatment. White kept the details of the coroner's report from Suzette, now 64, for a while. When I did tell her, she broke down and said, "This says so much about what was going on. Her father was a very proud man. And one of the things is that he would take care of his hands. She said he was angry that those people were not caring for him. According to White, Hubbard's will was changed the day before his death. I just want to add something real quick there. I'm clearly not a Hubbard fan, but that seems to be her impression of her father. It's interesting how right away she's like, they didn't take care of him. Who was supposed to take care of Hubbard? When he wouldn't allow people to help him. And in like the normal natural world, because everything in Scientology is inverted and unnatural against nature, in the natural world, he would have had family members there. They would have helped him. And she doesn't even have that. That doesn't even cross her mind. You know what I mean? He said supposedly it was his signature, but there are many people who were trained over the years to answer his mail and his messages, and the messengers actually practiced signing his name. But whether he signed it or not, what shape is he in with the second stroke and on antipsychotic medication? I'm waiting to hear some anger or some like disdain or disgust for this man. The new will, White said, moved a lot of money from the family onto the church. So, like, I don't know this guy, but it's like the only thing he's talking about really, I mean, he's focused on the money. I'm just saying. I wasn't there, so it's not fair for me to judge everyone if I'm not walking in their shoes and knowing exactly what they were going through. I think a lot of these people are isolated, and I do think a lot of Scientologists do not know the abuse the children are going under. I really believe that because they are not exposed to it. Now, there are a lot of people that are, but there are a lot of Scientologists that are not exposed to it. White and Suzette were married by a justice of the peace in a small ceremony in March 1986. Their son Tyson was born in December. But from the moment of Hubbard's death, White recalled life started to change for the family, and the rise of Miscavige was underway. It's not just Miscavige, though. It's not just Miscavige. I mean, Miscavige had a lot to do with stuff, but everybody was going along with it. It's like a machine. The Miscavige is he's kind of at the top, but it's not only him making this machine go. At first, it was the little things, White said. Like the family starts getting erased. It's a typical narcissist thing right there. There was a policy letter that Suzette had worked on. It was originally L. Ron Hubbard, assisted by Suzette Hubbard. But Suzette gets erased. There was a book called The Science of Survival, dedicated to Diana Hubbard. Go look more into Diana. It's not good. If you pull a copy today, there's no Diana. She's gone. When Suzette became pregnant, things started to get personal. So that's a picture of him, 19 years old, at the community college in Portland, Oregon. So you see, that's where they scooped him up. See, they get their tentacles in a lot of these places. Some of them are front groups, and some of them are just like a Scientology business. And a lot of people are just, they don't know everything that's going on. So it's just so diabolical. He said, an issue comes out saying children are not allowed in the organization anymore. Basically, children are a distraction. I do have to wonder what all happened with those children that were born in the Sea Org. How many crimes are covered up that we don't know about? We were on the international base, and it's beginning to become very clear that things are different for us because Suzette is Hubbard's daughter. It's uncomfortable. So they were turning on him. When their son Tyson was born, he was one of just 2 children at the base. Diana's daughter, Rowan, was the other and lived there with her father following her parents' divorce. According to White, Hubbard wrote a letter stipulating she stay with him and setting down how she should be raised. It was called the Princess Program. Oh my God. Oh my God. You guys, that is an MK Ultra program. Go research it. It's sick. It's really sick. That's why I have questions. I don't think that this was all L. Ron Hubbard, me personally. He said Tyson was run on the Prince program. I'm sure that's another MK Ultra program. There were people who thought he was the reincarnation of Hubbard. Hubbard died in January. Tyson was born in December. Tyson is a redhead child. He's dynamic, lovable. You had people who'd lost their founder, but here he was again. The family lived in the strange bubble of int base for 2 years when another rule was changed, White said. There was to be no family time. An hour that families would take, usually after dinner. Trying to think of who all was at the int base. You know, some of their artists were in that area. New mother Suzette challenged the change, White said. They said, well, we can't find anything that Hubbard wrote about family time. And she said, well, I lived it. So that was the first thing that David Miscavige got rid of. Huh. To add to their misery, both Suzette and White were given menial jobs. Of course they did. That's the devaluation. White went from a high-flying executive job, executive, to manning the clapperboard in the studios, pumping out promotional videos. Suzette worked as Miscavige's laundress. Oh, wow. He wanted to make sure she was all the way on the ground. These people are sick, man. In January 1989, Suzette took Tyson and vanished. In the middle of the night, White woke to find a note of apology. Good for her for getting out. He said, she hadn't told me to protect me. If you know of someone planning to leave, you are obligated to report them, otherwise you're guilty as well. That's a snitch culture. They did that in Nazi Germany as well. Instantly, White had guards on him round the clock. Suzette made contact and told him she didn't want to end the marriage, but couldn't live with the rules. White said, I can't get off the base. I have no access to my son. I was very, very angry. White would, he said, have done anything to be with his son. He plotted his escape and managed to communicate with family members who drove him to San Diego. It was easier then, he smiled. But within days, guards arrived at his motel. Scientologists, fair gaming. He still believed in the church. He just wanted his son back. He agreed to return in a bid to persuade Suzette to do likewise. But he wasn't taken back to int base. He was driven to Happy Valley. Oh, where are the little children, the children's ranches, I believe. The one that the documentary got, the Happy Valley documentary that got jinxed on purpose. A far more remote location on reservation territory. Isolation. And it soon became clear to him that nothing was being done to get Tyson or Suzette back. He said, I was told that because Suzette was with her mother at this point, the concern was that Mary Sue would go legal. I said, so what is the plan for Mary Sue? And they said to let her live out her life. And it was at that point that everything fell apart, because if you believe in reincarnation, how is living out your life any sort of solution? And if you believe in Hubbard's technology to handle suppressive people, why wouldn't you use it? Then I realized, standing there with my poker face, that the organization that I thought that I was part of didn't actually exist. Bingo! That was his moment. That was his moment. He saw it was all a lie. White knew he had to escape. There's a picture of Suzette with the little redhead son. Cute little kid. I got to form a wonderful relationship with Mary Sue, and she got to enjoy her grandchildren. White said of his former mother-in-law, his son Tyson is pictured with Mary Sue Hubbard. Oh, I guess that's the grandma. I don't know what I think about her, too. I mean, maybe she was just under mind control. I don't know her personally. I don't think she was an angel, though. His first plan was to flee across the mountains that lay between him and Palm Springs. There was no fence around Happy Valley, though. There were guards posted around the property. The location was so remote in terrain, so inhospitable, that was deemed enough. White fled one night out, he realized as the sun rose. and the overwhelming mountains unfolded before him, that he would never make it. He rushed back before he could be seen, scrambling up their slopes. He said, "I realized I was going to have to leave the way I came in. I realized standing there with my poker face that the organization that I thought I was part of didn't actually exist." That's a good quote. I should keep that. Day by day he plotted. He fed the German Shepherd's guard dogs. He constructed a code with his mother and managed to communicate the day he was going to make his bid for freedom despite calls being monitored. He recalled, "As soon as I got the dogs start barking, betrayed, the big lights come on and I just run." He ran along tough terrain parallel to the road as the security jeeps drove from the base before hitting a stretch of road. Doesn't that sound like a communist country? He said, "At one point there's a hairpin turn, and all of a sudden I see lights shooting out in front of me, but they haven't made the turn, and I just dive off the road before those lights can hit me. And I'm tumbling down, but it's okay. I'm going, and so I keep going." Eventually he reached the small town of Hemet. Yeah, where the police are brought there as well. Everything was shut apart from the bowling alley, which was being cleaned overnight. White made his way there, banged on the door, and said in broken Spanish that he had been in an accident and needed to make a call. He said, "They brought me in, closed the door, and locked it behind me. I was elated. I was happy for the first time in a long time because I felt safe." Over the next 7 years, White and Suzette tried to make their marriage work. White got a job in a company run by a Scientologist because he still believed in the faith. It's not its management, and he thinks the church wanted to keep him vaguely sweet because of his family ties. They had 2 more children, Alyssa and Connor, but when White joined the church, he had been too young and naive to understand his sexuality. He doesn't even mention how they demonize people that are homosexual. When filling in his staff application, he could honestly answer no to the question, "Do you have any history of homosexuality, prostitution, or other aberration?" Okay, there's the mention. Because he had no sexual history at all, and the question itself made it clear to him that homosexuality was an aberration to be fixed through technology. But out in the world, his eyes were open, and the truth was something he no longer could or would deny. He was a married man with 3 children, aged 2, 4, and 8, and he was gay. White said Suzette was very gracious. At one point, it was like, "Do we keep the marriage? Personally, I don't think it was fair to me or Suzette, and we ended up getting divorced." You can have all the fame, the money, the drama, but at the end of the day, what's important was family, White said. Coming out also marked the final severing of White's connection with the church. After 2 years of wrangling and difficulty drawn out by church attorneys, White was awarded joint legal and physical custody. See, they catered to him because of his ties with Suzette and Mary Sue Hubbard. Because the other Scientologists would not have gotten that kind of treatment. Suzette, too, lost her faith in the system her father had founded, and none of the children were raised Scientologists. Thank God. It does seem like they kind of gloss over that, though, a little bit, but you notice they wanted to make sure their children were raised in that shit. White said, "I got to form a wonderful relationship with Mary Sue, and she got to enjoy her grandchildren. We had many conversations. She was very angry with Hubbard." In the context of Scientology beliefs, their agreement was that she would go first and make sure things were safe for him to follow. She told me, "I have some words for him when I see him." Neither of them liked Miscavige. They called him a little Napoleon, and she wasn't happy with the way he ran things. But in the end, I think she was done with the church. You can have all the fame, the money, the drama, but at the end of the day, what was important to her was family. So that was good. Okay, guys, I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Peace.